Okay, so now going over this example again, keep in mind that my original goal for this slide was to go over, I think I got sidetracked, IVs and DVs. What's a manipulated variable? Stop there. Measured variable. Control, let's put V there. Control variable and confound variable, right? So that was the original aim. I know people got confused on this. It's my first time going over this example, so let me review it again. So first, let me set you up with the study, help explain what the study actually did. Okay, so first you had these little kids, and they came into the study, and the researcher asked, which one do you prefer, pretzels or cookies? They did this to figure out which one would be the delayed reward. The delayed reward was their first choice. If you wait long enough, you're gonna get your first choice. So let's assume they chose cookies, right? Most of them probably did choose cookies. So if they chose cookies, that's the delayed reward. Now, keep in mind, this has nothing to do with the manipulated variable, the measured variable. Here, they just want to make sure they know which one do they prefer, which one is least preferred. They kind of want to make sure the cookies are the most preferred reward, right? So, okay, without actually going into the IV and levels, then the children, okay, this is supposed to be a table. That's the kid. They waited, at most, I think it was about 15 minutes, but they were waiting, and they can call in the researcher at any time, but if they call in the researcher, they get their least preferred reward. So they would get the pretzels, right? So, okay, that doesn't look like a pretzel. What's the pretzel look like? Like that? That doesn't, I can't draw a pretzel, but that's a pretzel. And here are cookies, right? In some situations, they have the cookies in front of them, but the point is they're asked to wait. And if they want their reward immediately, which would be the pretzels, they could call in the researcher, but if they wait the entire time, they get the cookie, what they want. That's just a general design for the study, overall. Okay, so now let's get into the IVs and DVs. The DV is only measured in the situation, so that gets that, and that gets this, right? So a measured variable is when you only measure it. Here they measured it through time. You can see it here, right? Here are the averages across situations. So they measured, well, how long did children wait? And so that's the DV. And for the IV, this is where it gets a little complicated. They had these 4 different situations. 1, 2, 3, 4 levels for what they call available for attention. You could also think of it as the reward presence IV, but they call it this IV, they call it available for attention. And just going back to this drawing, let me get the eraser, either they had nothing in front of them, that's this level, or they had both things in front of them, the cookies and pretzel sticks, that looks better, or some kids only had the delayed reward, which were the cookies, right? They didn't have the pretzels, or they only had the pretzels. So it's kind of looking at, well, if you have both things in front of you, is it harder to wait? Or does having the cookie in front of you remind you, no, I need to wait. I need to wait for that cookie. What if you only have the pretzels? Does that make it harder to wait because you have something you could have right in front of you? You can't see the cookie? Or What about when you have the cookie in front of you and that's all you have? Or does nothing at all? Does that lead for the children at least? Does that lead for them being able to wait longer and delay gratification to get what they really want, right? Because remember, what they really want is a cookie. And we're looking at how long can they delay gratification to get a better reward. Now, to connect this with the different IVs and DVs again, the DV is how long did the children wait across these different situations. The manipulator variable is specific to this study. It changes by study if it's even there, right? So what you're looking for is could the researcher choose which of these 4 conditions, and it would be something like this, right? Nothing, cookie, and pretzel sticks. Only cookie, only pretzel sticks. Could this researcher assign each child to this, or this, or this, or this? So in this case, the researcher actually did. You would get this from reading the example, from reading the study. In the study, it discusses that they assign children to one of these 4 conditions. Okay, so we have that, we have that. The independent variable is a little bit trickier. I did discuss it already. But in this case, you're looking for you're looking for a variable that has different situations of that variable. In my previous video, I had coffee and different levels of coffee. In this case, you have, are the rewards available for attention, and different levels for that. You have no reward, you have both rewards, you have delayed reward, and you have immediate reward. So that's IVs. And I got this one too. So that's how these terms fit into this example. Now, control variable and confound variable, these are actually related. So let's say, you know what, I'm worried that the time of day, right, that the time of day might be a confound. Maybe young children, have a harder time right after waking up delaying gratification. They're less patient, maybe, right? If you've been around kids, you can see also when they're sleepy. Like maybe I'm getting kids who are sleepy and they're less patient. So if I'm worried about that, well, I want to make sure, actually, I didn't mean to erase that. I want to make sure I factor out time, or if they're sleepy, let's use that. I want to make sure that they're not sleepy right before they participate, because I'm worried that that might influence how they do on this task. So I make sure that all children had just finished a nap. So all children just woke up from a nap. Okay, so, that's kind of hard to do in a study setting, but, you get the idea. I want to make sure none of the children are sleepy. So there's this confound. Now I've controlled for it. I've made sure this is not going to influence their performance on the study in terms of how long they wait. One thing that a student asked me in office hours I think is helpful is thinking back to this example. Morning. Actually, let's just use caffeine. Caffeine and regular cup and decaf. I'm writing at a kind of awkward angle. But, okay, let's say I only had that. Okay, I wanted to compare how people who have a regular cup of coffee before class compared to those that have a decaf cup of coffee, how much attention they pay in class. So let's say the DV's attention. So, okay, so that's interesting. But you know what? Let's say I'm worried that time of day will influence well, not time of day, let's go with temperature. Let's say that I'm worried that temperature will influence how much attention they can pay in class, because in a warm morning they might start falling asleep. So, okay, fine. Then I hold constant the temperature at, let's say, 75 degrees. So that way, people who do it any time of day, I turn on the AC so it's 75 degrees consistently. So it doesn't matter whether it's a hot day or a cold day, they get the same temperature. That's not going to influence how much attention they pay. So I've taken that possible confound, which is temperature, and I've made it a control variable, right? Which you see here. I've controlled for this potential confound. So that's how you usually would hear it. I think the student also brought up, well, what if I was interested in temperature? Could I make that a manipulated variable? Yeah, you can. Maybe in this example it might be a confound, but let's say somebody was interested in seeing how temperature influenced attention. Maybe I'm thinking of turning up the AC on during class, making it really cold so nobody falls asleep, and giving people cups of coffee. But then now, as a researcher, I've designed a study where instead of it being something I control for, I'm actually interested in seeing how varying temperature influences my dV of attention. So I've made it, in this case, a manipulated variable, because I'm going to control which temperature they get. I'm going to give some people hot, some people cold. So it depends on how it comes out in the study, whether it's a control, confound, or manipulated. With temperature, here you can see that it can be something you control for, or it could be part of the study and be something you manipulate. It depends on the description of the study, so pay specific attention to that. Don't get caught up in thinking, well, I could imagine temperature being something that they manipulate, but if that's not in the description, if that's not specifically stated, right? If I don't specifically state, I assign some participants to a hot room and some to a cold room, then don't make your own assumptions. Just read what's in the example and stick to that. Now, I know this was pretty long, but if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer questions.